I'm Mark Stewart. This is about the Fed. Now, how does one go from reflecting on a road race to a half hour later talking about the governors of the Federal Reserve Board? Bear me out. I said in the last video that 20,000 pounds back in 1873 was probably worth about $1 million today. So I looked it up. I was low. 20,000 pounds at that time would be close to $2 million. What happened? Why such deflation of currency? Because with deflation of currency, you have eroded the value. You have had inflation making things cost more. The evil of inflation is that people who have a fixed salary or an incrementally increasing salary are not keeping up with the greatly increasing levels of inflation. The Federal Reserve was supposed to protect us against that. It was created in 1913. It was created following a panic, but that was probably an excuse. There were a lot of progressives back as early as 1895 arguing for a big government structure that could manage the economy better. Little recessions, and they were relatively little. Throughout the 19th century, a recession never got to depression. It would last no more than 2 years, and the magic of capitalism, which would deflate, cause prices to go lower, cause people to lose jobs, also after time caused people to be willing to work for less and be hired again. Prices in a more competitive business would come up again. That is the cycle of unrestrained capitalism. It's not that bad. Yet, progressives think they can perfect things that are largely out of their hands. So, following a little recession in 1907, boards got together to create a Federal Reserve that would be private banks. This is not exclusively government. This is government in cahoots with banks to make a more stable currency. And a few supposedly wise governors would be controlling the money supply, controlling the rates that the government lends to banks, giving discounts at certain times to promote higher inflation or keep it lower at their discretion. Has it worked? Not that well. From a relatively stable currency, we had drops based on wars. During the worst parts of the Civil War, our currency value then was probably 40% diminished from where it was at the start of our republic. But come 1913, when we were, we'll call it near 100 on a chart of 0 to 100, since the creation of the Fed in 1913, the value has eroded to about 5. Yes, $1 today was worth $20 back then. Or you could put it this way, $1 back then is only worth 5 cents today. This makes it especially hard on consumers. It makes fixed incomes something we can't even do anymore. We have to almost build in inflation into government benefits. That's why COLAs keep going up, cost of living adjustments. That's why salaries are almost expected to go up even though they're not based on merit. So why do we need a Fed? We don't. Our free markets kept currencies from plunging more than 40%. And again, this was only during the height of the Civil War that it went down that much. Relatively stable. The 20,000 that Phileas Fogg wagered in 1873 was almost exactly the 20,000 that was inherited in the 1830s, fictionally again, by Jane Eyre in Charlotte Bronte's novel. People expected stability and generally got it. stability was tied to gold. And we had a gold standard that we went off of in the 1970s. Also one of the periods of the worst inflation in the United States. Gold is a relatively stable backing for currency. We no longer have that. And no surprise, our currency continues to diminish in value. Here's my biggest to-do. It's really to not do. To not respect whys based on their PhDs or that they have MBAs. Those are the people who are selected to Federal Reserve governance. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they know the workings of the economy any better than the millions of people who make transactions every day, and it cannot be ultimately controlled. It ends up hurting, although they have the power to manipulate and help a few. That's the dastardliness of the last 15 years. The Federal Reserve has actually had a money policy that has kept interest rates very low. That has helped stockholders, okay? Those tend to be well-off people in the first place. That has not helped savers. You used to be able to get ahead by saving and earning 6–7% interest just in a savings bank. Haven't seen that in about 14 years, have you? The deliberateness of the Federal Reserve has given benefits to some and taken away others. I'm of the opinion you let the market chips fall where they may, because that's the best determiner of good, and it's the best way that we have sureness compared to a few lofty bureaucrats who we've empowered to do almost anything. Happy Thanksgiving.